this morning, I have a confession to make. And every time I begin like this, I'm going to be bouncing off the walls in a couple of minutes. I've been known to actually write and articulate the idea that we shouldn't be fasting on Tisha B'Av, right? In past years, I even wrote about it, and this year, I have a very different feeling about it. I think so many things have changed in the world that Tisha B'Av has taken a completely different meaning for me. And somebody asked me last night, why is it still relevant? Now, the old me would have said, no, it's not relevant anymore. We have the state of Israel that substitutes the temple. We shouldn't be mourning anymore. But allow me to really state the obvious. And I apologize that it took me 58 years to actually realize that Tisha B'Av is not perhaps entirely about the destruction of the temple, but what leads to the destruction of the temple, which is a lack of unity amongst the Jewish people. Yes, the destruction of the temple is the byproduct of what we actually caused to happen in history. And time and time again, irrefutably, we become our own worst enemies. Time and time again, when the time comes to be united and to have a common front and to face our enemies like one, we fall apart. The stories in the Talmud of the destruction of the temple, they're almost more concentrated on how it happened, how the zealots went and burned the supplies of wheat so that Jews actually had to fight the Romans, than talking about the destruction itself. So, if we actually follow that line of thought, Tisha B'Av this year is more relevant than any other year, at least in my lifetime. We, as a people, have been the number one target of a campaign of disinformation and calumny. And I say we have been the target because we believed until recently that everybody else was a target. Every time when I got up here and I preached and I yelled and I said, I'm in the echo chamber. All of you know and feel what I feel. I am convinced now that we have to talk in the echo chamber. Because so many of us have fallen victims of this disinformation. So many of us, and I hate to say it with these words, are showing weakness because we do not like the pictures that we see on TV. But let me tell you a story. I was there on November 7th, exactly a month after October 7th. I saw the brains splattered on the walls of Kibbutz Kfar Aza. And pardon me for the image that I'm describing. I know it's atrocious, but there's no other way of describing it. So no imagery that I see on TV is going to move me beyond what I saw that day. No image. And let me tell you why I'm mentioning this morning. Last night we were having Shabbat dinner, and Ari told me if I remember one of her friends, and I said, yes, I remember her. She says, you have no idea what she's been posting on social networks. I said, your friend, didn't she go to camp with you? Was in USY with you? Yes. And then Ari showed me the posts. And I could not believe what I was reading, and I brought them with me. So I'm not going to read the entire thing, but just a couple of sentences. And you say, and I quote, and you say that those standing against the genocide of Palestinians are disgusting and not living in reality. I argue, what is reality? What is real? When one writes an article about reality, a reflection of reality, one is actually making a selection about reality, which in turn is a reflection of reality. How often do you think about the layers and layers of hypertext that are created by just a simple news article? Okay, so far, seems not so bad. But then, children are starving in Gaza, and yet the Israeli government is trying to convince you, to keep you blinded, that we as a people are not committing genocide. Something Israel is deliberately withholding, food to innocent civilians. To deny the starvation of the Palestinian people is to create a false reality for yourself, to confuse this reality with your desired reality. Donate to Palestinian causes. Don't be fooled by the Zionist propaganda. This is a child that was educated in our camps, in our youth movements, that had dinner at my house. So, when you read the words of the Haftorah this morning, there is no way they don't echo and reverberate inside of your soul. Hoi goy chote, a sinful nation. Am keved avon, a people laden with iniquity. Zera mereim, blood of evildoers. This is what I'm saying, right? Banim mashchitim, depraved children. These words are relevant. They're more relevant than ever. We have done this to ourselves. As a matter of fact, we spend so many years telling our children we need to be equal. We are like everybody else, which we are, by the way. We're the fiber of society. That now, that same society comes for us. And there's nothing to keep us from falling in the trap that has been set for us. And if you think this is only hard for our children, it's not. Last week, 900 of my colleagues signed a letter in which they asked that the Israeli government stop doing what it's doing. And by the way, I will say it again for 1,000 times, I have no love lost for the Prime Minister of Israel. I really do not like this guy. Okay? But right now, our people are fighting a war. And if you didn't see the video that emerged yesterday of Ebiatar David, one of the hostages in Gaza, looking like a skeleton, but that was not the real center of the video. He was filmed digging his own grave. This kid who was taken from the Nova Festival. No way on earth I would ever sign a letter like that. What has happened to us? And I respect my colleagues and I love them. But what has happened to our people? When I walked into Kibbutz Kfar Aza that November 7th, I remember there were cars in the parking lot still ridden with bullet holes. And the cars of the people who were parked there, mostly soldiers, who were getting ready to go into Gaza, had stickers that said, literally, finish them. And I remember thinking, this is going to be simple. We're all standing together. Hamas has to go. They have to disappear. Look at us. Look at us now. You know, a couple of weeks ago when I spoke about Mamdani, New York City, and I posted something on Facebook, one of my colleagues, again, whom I love, and we went to school together, and we are from the same region of the world, so we speak to each other in our mother tongue, and we yell at each other in a different way, said to me, do you think you should be really talking about that? People come to, and he says, I agree with you, but people come to the synagogue for spirituality, to be comforted. And I said to him, I disagree. We need to keep talking about this because we forget. We turn on the news, we get the newspaper, everything we see is about this. And nobody stands up for us but ourselves. So we come here not only to get spiritually invested, but also to get support and to get energy and to understand that we're not alone. And at least for me, I hope that I'm not alone. So, like my colleague said, you're supposed to talk about Torah, so let's talk about the Torah. Parashat Dvarim. You know, always read before Tisha B'Av. Hundreds of commentaries devoted to the word Dvarim. These are the words, Ele Advarim. And for centuries, we've spoken about the power of words. So let's speak about the power of words. Every time you read one of those articles in the New York Times, or every time you turn on the TV and you listen to the words, you think you're living in an alternate reality. At least that's what's happening to me. And I come back to the imagery of the temple being destroyed. Because half the time now, these are Jews attacking Jews. Dear friends, Hamas is winning this war. All of our children who died in Gaza, all of our beautiful children, defending our people. For what? And I too believe the war has to end. But it could end in 10 seconds if they give us back these hostages. So, for what? It's so difficult. And I tell you, Hamas has won because finally the lack of unity amongst our people is getting us. There's a powerful midrash in Eicha Rabbah. מפתחות של בית המקדש היו בידיהן של כהנים. The keys of the Beit HaMikdash, of the temple, were in the hands of the Kohanim. And when they saw that the city was burning, they were on the roof and they threw them to the sky. יצתה כעין פיסת יד. They saw a hand that reached out from heaven and picked up the keys. And then they heard a voice that said, עד שיבוא דור שראוי להן, תהיינה שומרות אצלי. Until a generation that comes that is worthy of keeping these keys, I will hold them. And that was the voice of God. So here's my question. Are we that generation? Some years ago I would have said, yes. Give us the keys. The state of Israel is a new temple. Give us the keys. Today I say to you, we're not worthy of holding those keys. This infighting is going to finish us. So what do? Well, I think that the most important thing is to stay the course. And if we don't like the government, if we don't like some of the ministers, let's just remember, it is about an entire people, not about personalities. Look, if I had the power, I would go and remove Netanyahu myself. I'm telling you the truth. But I can't do that. And it's a democracy. And right now, that democracy is immersed in the most difficult moment of its existence. We have to stand strong, and we have to stand with her. I want to end by just sharing with you a vignette of what happened last week in the United States Senate. If you don't believe that we are our own worst enemy, the only thing you need to do is look at the images of Bernie Sanders standing in the middle of the Senate floor, asking the Senate to stop the sale of weapons to Israel. You know, some years ago people told me, oh, the squad, it's only 3 people. Don't worry about them. Look where we are today. And I'll say it again. This is not about politics. It's not about Republican or Democrats. This is about being Jewish. This is about who we are as a people. and who that Sanders character is as a person. 27 Democrats voted with him. Among them, another Jew, the senator from Hawaii, who did not vote with him. And that's important for us to remember, because at moments like this, you know who your friends are. And we should all be proud that Senators Catherine Cortez Masto and Senator Jackie Rosen from Nevada, both Democrats, voted against what Sanders proposed. Here's the worst part of this. He didn't need to bring this bill to the Senate because he knew it was going to fail. But he did it anyway, to show the world. He should read Isaiah. Thank you, Senators Cortez Masto and Senators Rosen. And by the way, for those of you who say, well, Senator Rosen is Jewish, well, you cannot take that for granted anymore, can you? Senator Cortez Masto and Senator Rosen, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I have never been more proud to be a Nevadan and that you stand with our people. It is incredible that almost after 2 years of this, we still cannot let go of this. But we can't. Because I'm afraid that if we stop talking about it, we're going to get more texts like the one Ari got. And then we're just going to give in. Because it's like a fashion, right? Everybody's going to wear a white tie, so I'm going to wear a white tie. Human beings are like lemmings. They just follow others. May God grant us the patience and the energy to endure and to persevere and to be strong. And may God grant us the wisdom to bring unity to our people, beyond the letters, beyond the signatures. You know, I never thought that colleagues that I respected were going to be posting things online, poems and prayers. Let's pray for our children and their children. Can you imagine during the Second World War, our parents posting or writing letters about praying for the German children? Can you imagine that? It's despicable. Tonight is Tisha B'Av. Let's pray like we mean it. Let's understand its meaning. Let's not come here and read Eicha and live like nothing happened. Because God knows we need the strength and the inspiration. Shabbat Shalom u'mevorach. May I please ask us to rise, page 184, the Chatzi Kaddish for Musaf.